أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'll be saying a few words regarding the month of Rajab, because the month of Rajab is approaching. Within the next few days, inshallah, the month will approach, and we'll be entering one of the three sacred months. So we have Rajab, and we have Sha'ban, and we have Ramadan. These 3 months are referred to as Al-Ashhur al-Hurum, the 3 sacred months. The people of Jahiliyyah before Islam, they had forbade any killing to happen in these months. They were sacred. And Islam came to emphasize their sacredness. It came and it made it even more sacred. If you look at the hadith and analyze what the Prophet ﷺ said about these months, we can see that there's a special spiritual message that the Prophet was trying to tell us. So in one hadith, for example, the Prophet says, Shahru Rajab huwa Shahrullah. The month of Rajab is the month of God. Wa Shahru Sha'ban Shahri. And the month of Sha'ban is my month. Wa Shahru Ramadan Shahru Ummati. The month of Ramadan is the month of my nation. If we look at this and we see what attribution is given to each month, Sha'ban is the Prophet's month. Rajab is God's month. And Ramadan is the Prophet's month. When we see that the attribution is given to God, this is the month of God, the ulama, and specifically the urafa, the mystics, say that Rajab is even more important than Shahr Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, for those who are deeply rooted on the spiritual path. For everyone else, the month of Ramadan is better. But for those who are connected to God, those who are closer to God, the month of Rajab is the greatest of the 3 months. Why? Because it's the month of God. For everyone else, it acts as a preparatory month. It prepares you for Shahr Ramadan. So you look at it from 2 different ways. For some people, Shahr Rajab is the introductory to Shahr Ramadan. It trains you and it gets you prepared for Shahr Ramadan. And for other people, it's the other way around. Shahr Rajab is the month, is the goal. So the emphasis on doing special acts in this month is very necessary. But we have to look at ourselves and we have to see where are we in terms of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we lack spirituality, then we'll use this month as an introduction, something to prepare us for the coming of Shahr Ramadan and assist us in tolerating it and getting the best out of it. Some of the things that the ulama have told us to do, have advised us to do for these 3 months is istighfar, to ask for forgiveness. This is one of the main components of this month. Why? Because if I want to prepare myself for the month of Ramadan, I need to purify myself. It's like if I want to go somewhere special, I take a shower, I clean myself, I go into a special occasion, I get dressed up, and then I meet this special person, or I go on that occasion. So Rajab can act as this purifier. It can act as this month that cleanses us, that removes the sins that we have, and allow us to greet the month of Ramadan in a much better way. So istighfar, asking for forgiveness, is the first thing that we should be doing. Some ulama say that if you can do istighfar 1,000 times a day, is very good. Throughout the day, you have a rosary and tasbih, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. You're driving your car, you're sitting in the office, you're sitting on the couch, just pick up your rosary and do istighfar 1,000 times if you can. If you can't do 1,000, do 100. If you can't do 100, do 10. Don't think that if I can't do 100 or I can't do 1,000, I shouldn't do any. 10 is better than 0. 1 is better than 0. If I, per day, say astaghfirullah 1 time, it's better than not saying astaghfirullah anytime. That 1 asking for forgiveness is better than not. At least it keeps you conscious about you as an individual, your sins and your shortcomings. Istighfar is the first thing. To purify yourself, to remove the sins that you've accumulated throughout the year, so that when the month of Ramadan comes and approaches, you're able to connect with that month in a better way. You have less sins, and on the Laylatul Qadr, on the night of destiny, there, that effect, that spiritual effect will come to you much stronger than it would if you do not purify yourself. The second advice that we were given is that these months have to be treated different than the other months of the year. They're special months. They're 3 sacred months. They come, we have 12 months of the year. 9 of them we can live a normal life. 3 of these, at least try to use them as months to make changes in your life. So Rajab would be a good introduction for that. If throughout the year I've been talking a lot of nonsense to people, if I've been backbiting a lot of people, if I've been wasting my time doing this, doing that, at least for Rajab I should cut down a little bit. If I'm spending too much time, wasting, let's say 7 hours of my day. For Rajab, let me try to cut down to 5 hours. Always 5 instead of 7. And then in Shaban, always 3 hours instead of 5. Just as a month that should not be like all the other months. You should, before the start of the month, put a list for yourself. Maybe, like you have New Year's resolutions, you should have resolutions for these 3 months. I want to make a change in my life. What is it that I have that I need to change? What is it in my character that I have to change? If I can come out after these 3 months with one positive change in my life, it would be a very big achievement. If, for example, I'm someone who, has an anger issue, let's say. I say that, in this month, I'm going to try to come. By the time that Shahr Ramadan finishes, I want to be a changed person. I don't want to be as angry as I was before. I shouldn't be the same person I am after Ramadan than I was before Ramadan. To the better, of course. So they give advice to scholars for this. What do? Well, one thing is to practice silence in our life. If I haven't been practicing this meditation and salat and silence in the other months of the year, let me for Rajab at least, make a meditation program. Let me sit down 5 minutes a day and just not talk to anybody. Put my phone away, put my parents away, put my children away, put everyone away. Sit down for 5 minutes and just contemplate and observe silence. 10 minutes if you can is better. Half an hour if you can is better. But if you can't, just do the minimum. Because 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes of silence per day is much better than no silence at all. Throughout our entire year, we usually don't do any of these things. We're just busy, running after things, using phones, using, going on, out with friends, and, just living our normal life, which is fine. But in these months, we have to treat them differently, and the way you treat them differently affects you psychologically as well. When you see that in this month, I'm going to observe silence for 10 minutes per day, immediately, psychologically, you change. You feel that this month is not like any other month. I'm accountable in this month. So you have an internal change that happens inside of you. So silence is another thing. That's another thing that we should do. Istighfar is the first thing. Silence is the other thing. Fasting is also recommended. For those people who have a difficulty in fasting in the month of Ramadan, they say, how can I change my diet overnight? It's not an issue of an overnight change. You have 3 months or 2 months before the month of Ramadan to begin practicing this act of fasting. The Prophet ﷺ used to fast. Used to fast the 3 months together. Now, he never asked us to do that. He said, if you can do that, it's good. But if you can't do 3 months, or you can't do the whole month of Rajab, then do 10 days of it. If you can't do 10 days, do 3 days. If you can't do 3 days, do 1 day of fasting. At least have that 1 day of fasting to change that normal routine that you have and incorporate some spiritual teachings in your life. So fasting is the third thing. First thing was asking for forgiveness, istighfar. Secondly, observing silence, changing our attitude when it comes to dealing with people, when it comes to talking, when it comes to doing things like that. And thirdly, is fasting. Because fasting is not only a matter of staying away from food. The objective of fasting, and inshallah when we come back here inshallah we'll talk about this in more detail, but fasting detaches you from your senses. It makes you stop focusing on the outside and begin focusing on the inside. Every day we're used to eating, drinking, going after these pleasures, but when I fast, I stop these things. I stop my wrongdoing, because if I do wrongdoings, it breaks my fast, certain wrongdoings. So that allows you to begin to focus internally. If you find yourself that I'm not able to focus on my soul, then fast on that day. That would help you focus on the inside instead of the outside. It blocks your senses. Because sometimes when we get stressed, when we start thinking, we don't want to think, we grab a meal. We kind of start eating, right? We get the snack, we get the meal, we keep ourselves busy eating that stuff. Or we grab a drink, or we watch something. So we have to get ourselves in the habit of breaking these habits and attachments as these 3 months pass. So we have istighfar, we have silence, we have fasting. And the fourth thing that we should try doing is we should try to incorporate some Quran or some dua in our lives. Just to get ourselves used to this connection with Allah, used to being connected to Allah through the scripture as well. Nothing excessive again. If you're someone who doesn't recite Quran throughout the year, don't put on yourself more pressure than you can handle. Don't start, I want to recite a juz'ah today or every day. No, start with a page. You can't do a page? Half a page. It doesn't take a minute to read a half a page. Don't think that, I gotta finish the whole Quran. No. Half a page is way better than where you were at before. So any type of small advancement, any type of adjustment you can do in your life is very good. And honestly, if you look at the way that people lived in the past, they had more time on their hands. They were able to do things. Living in the West, especially in the US, it doesn't allow you to incorporate these spiritual things in your life because the life here is not designed for spirituality. The life here is designed for consumption, for you to go after monetary profits, monetary growth. This is the lifestyle that is given to us in this country. So having free time and an ability to practice our spirituality is very difficult. If someone, back in the Eastern countries where you work, for less hours and you have more time of your day for yourself, if they can recite, let's say, a juz'ah of the Quran per day, we can't do that over here. We have to be realistic about our life. If I'm unable to do that, I have to be realistic. I shouldn't feel bad about myself. Any little thing is rewarded that we're able to do. So these are things that we should, incorporate in our lives, make these months of difference, and prepare ourselves for the upcoming of the month of Ramadan, inshallah. These were just a few things I wanted to share with you, and inshallah after this we can have, some discussions here and sit down together. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the success and tawfiq to reach the month of Ramadan of this year and every year, and we ask God to give us the strength and power to make an internal change in ourselves, to become better people, to become people who are more loving, more caring, and more spiritual in our lives. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.